Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Vods. We're on episode 5. It's really cool that we started this stuff at the beginning of the year because now I just look at the month and that's how I remember what episode we're on. It'll be great for exactly 12 episodes, and then it's going to go to hell because I'll never be able to remember what episode we're on because we're going to get into double digits.
We did that on purpose, right? It was just not a coincidence at all. We're that
I
smart.
when we talked about doing this and we talked about starting it off, at the new year because new year, new beginning, new trial, blah blah blah. Secretly in the back of my mind, I've been thinking about how fantastic it is. So, that in that way, by the time it hits December, hopefully we'll have like a nice little cadence going, and it'll be a lot easier to remember.
Yeah, it'll be fun to kind of look back and do a recap too, of the whole year. So
Yeah. So this episode 5, we're, as every episode we do, we're basically covering the news of the past month. We try to hit this typically the third month or the third Sunday of every month. Unfortunately, we had to skip a month because we both got, or skip a weekend because we both got really busy. We're still very busy, which is why we're not streaming this one. This is just straight up a recording. So this episode, I think we can colloquially call the GTA 6 episode, where we're just going to talk about a little bit of other stuff. But the majority of the news is going to be on GTA 6, discussing, what's going on with that game, all the fun stuff. Todd, would you like to kick us off going down the list?
yeah, so we're gonna do something a little different this month. There were two real notable releases in the last, month or so. Claire Obscure, Expedition 33 kind of broke out, took over the whole news cycle for a couple of weeks. And then the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster, really exploded onto the scene when it was shadow dropped.
Oh, yeah.
So I've platinumed Oblivion.
Okay.
You've played Claire Obscure. I think you said you 100%ed it, right?
I sure did. Yep.
So what we decided to do was each of us are going to ask the other 5 questions about the game they finished, because I didn't play Claire Obscure. I think, Val, you said that you dabbled in Oblivion just enough to see what it was and then kind of bounced.
Yep.
So I think this will give us a good opportunity to kind of highlight the 2 big releases, and then we'll roll into the Grand Theft Auto 6 stuff.
Yeah, sounds good to me. So I guess what questions do you have about old Claire Obscure?
All right, I'm really excited about this one. So I haven't played the game just because it's not really my kind of style. Like the parry mechanic in like, really at the forefront is kind of what's holding me back. I just don't like games that do that.
That's fair. I would say to still give it a shot because I know a lot of people that don't like that still find it pretty easy to digest. I know one guy even did a playthrough where he just did not parry stuff at all, and he was able to do it. It was very difficult, but he was able to do it. In fact, it also has a dodge button. If you don't want to parry, you can just dodge stuff. And it is way more lenient on the timing. Like you can dodge, like the general rule of thumb is to dodge attacks until you figure out like what the timing is and then start parrying if you want to be very careful.
So I did watch a full story recap.
Yeah, okay.
On YouTube. I kind of cheated my way through it just because it looks so interesting.
Oh, the story is fantastic. Yeah.
All right, so I've got 5 questions. I'm just gonna hit the ground running with the first one.
Okay.
So, a French turn-based emo RPG about the consequences of not dealing with grief and loss in a healthy way.
Yep.
Doesn't sound like a recipe to make the next big breakout video game. Why do you think this game caught on and resonated with audiences?
That's a very good question. I think for one, it was $50. Like, it just kind of goes without saying. It also
and Game Pass.
Yeah, and Game Pass. That's very true. It also kind of harkens back, and I think I mentioned to you when we first discussed it that it reminds me a lot of Lost Odyssey, and I think Lost Odyssey is like a sleeper hit. It was also very difficult, but for different reasons. It just was very mechanically heavy. Um, I think it came out at the same time in the way that like Helldivers did, where like it just came out of nowhere. People were kind of bored with everything being the same-ish, and it just offered something kind of familiar but also different. And I know a lot of people are talking about like one of the big things that came out when it released was, oh, Clair Obscur saved turn-based RPGs. And then there was a whole dialogue about how turn-based RPGs didn't need saving. These games exist, and they would list like, you know, some very turbo obscure like turn-based RPGs. And the reason why to me those games are very turbo obscure is because like they're very niche. If they were popular, if people loved them, you wouldn't need to save turn-based RPGs, right? Like I'm talking about like I think it was Atelier or something like that, Trailblazers, uh,
Yeah.
like those kind of games. And I know they have their fan bases for sure, but not in the way that like Final Fantasy has a fan base, not in the way that like I don't know, name any other like major, you know, AAA publishers RPG, right? Like Clair Obscur has shown people that you can do this and people want it, and they're like double A at best, you know?
See, I was going to say that to me, Clair Obscur really felt like a AAA game.
It did.
Like
It was
it to
a
me, it feels like the first turn-based AAA game in a long time.
yeah, it's a lot of passion went into it. I
Yeah.
think another thing that really sells it is you can tell while you're playing it that it is a labor of love. There is some jank to it. Sometimes the movement isn't quite perfect. You know, it feels it it looks really good, but I honestly that's Unreal Engine 5 like just doing its best, right?
Yeah.
Um the character design is great, the world is great, it's very beautiful. The music is absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of my favorite soundtracks since Final Fantasy Rebirth, I think.
Oh man, I jumped on stream while you were streaming the game
Uh-huh,
initially,
uh-huh.
and the music just it
I
spoke to me on such a deep level.
I could send you that. I have like 3 or 4 tracks that I listen to while I go to the gym now. Like I not on repeat, but like they're on my playlist and they pop up and man, they're good. They're really
So
good.
beautiful.
If I go out for a walk, like, you know, walking around the city or
Mhm.
whatever, I'll put my earbuds in and I'll just listen to the Clear Obscure soundtrack cuz it's so good. Like everything about it is just made with a labor of love where you can tell they didn't have, and we've talked about this in the past, you can tell they didn't have like a million hands touching it. They didn't have a bunch of people telling them what is best for the industry and what'll help them sell stuff. You can tell they didn't have like all these people that don't work in games like making the game. You know, you can tell they didn't have like some financial guy saying, "Hey, you need to find a way to put this in here because we need this to generate revenue." They just made a game and told a story they wanted to tell, and that was it. And that's it. It honestly, it reminds me of like the PS1, PS2 golden era, like the 360 era. It reminds me of like Lost Odyssey, to bring it back. Like it reminds me of a game that I pick up. I know what I'm getting. I play it, you know, once, twice through because it has New Game Plus. You're done with it. You've experienced the world. I don't even think they're doing DLC for it. I think they're just going to straight up probably do a sequel, which is great. It's just I don't know. Like there's something magical about the way that they handled it.
It's very earnest.
It
You
is.
know, it's open. It's like you said, like the game kicks off. You know, there's like really what like a 20-minute kind of walkthrough
Yep.
at the beginning of the game, and then the story just starts firing on all cylinders. Like you're there. They don't waste your time, which I think is really important
Yep.
in this day and era.
No, for sure. Because everything these days feels so bloated. And I think we're
Yeah.
starting to see I remember when gaming was I hate to say this, when gaming was young-ish, And it was like, oh, this game is 10 hours long. It's like, oh man, that's a long game. And then 20 hours long was a long game. And then 30 hours, then 40 hours. And I think 30 to 40 hours, maybe between 30 and 60 is really like the perfect length. I think 60 is getting a little on the long side for me. But then you had like, you know, Valhalla came out and it was like a 80 to 120-hour game. And I feel about games like I feel about anime, where like if an anime has like 300, 400, 800 episodes, I don't even want to start it, man. I just don't have the time for it. I don't care. I know 90% of it's going to be filler because never in the history of ever has there been a story that has had like that has been worth telling that is that long. You know, like
Yeah.
I prefer a
Yeah.
short, sweet, have a point. And I think that is exactly what Clair Obscur delivers. They know what they want to tell you, they know what they want to do, they come out with it, and it's it. That's done. It's you. They leave you wanting more, and that's why it's so good.
Yeah, if someone had asked me the same question I asked you, I think my answer would have been just execution.
Yeah,
Because it
absolutely.
looks like they sat down with their design doc and they freaking nailed it.
Yeah,
You know, they executed at every level, and it's not perfect, but it's beautiful.
and if
And
I'm
it's
not
I think it's definitely worth people's time.
for sure, if I'm not mistaken, so I mean, obviously the big thing, 33 is a repeating number. They have 33 members on the team, 32 humans plus one dog, which is very cute, very fantastic. Um, and the vast majority of those people are either new to their craft or like were junior developers or something. So they brought in like new talent across the board. Like very famously, the person that wrote the script was found on Reddit. The guy that did the music was found on SoundCloud. All these people just
Yeah, like the studio head was just bored at Ubisoft,
yep,
right?
yep.
And
So
just left and wanted to do his own thing.
yeah, and I
Uh,
think they mentioned bringing like because I think the initial news that came out was that it was a bunch of like ex Ubisoft devs. I think it was only like two or three tops, is what the studio lead said. Most of the others I feel are either new or came from like other places. And I want to say the writer was working finance and they
wow.
found her on Reddit somehow. I don't know the full story there, but like it just shows like I think it both shows that you can, a lot of people have a not really hidden talent, but there is talent out there. Like you need to be looking everywhere, not just in like these niche spaces, and also what like passion can really do for a project across the board. And I think it's no coincidence that they chose the story they chose, about artist having power, creating life, all that kind of stuff. Um, and I'm excited to see where it goes because they already talk about writers in the same sense in the story, and that just opens up the idea of like, what about musicians? What about you know people that code? Because to me, code is art. In a way, like game design is art, and I know that's been a contentious topic in the past, but I really believe that it is. So
Oh, it
I
100% is.
Yeah, so
Like,
I would love to see what they do in the future. I already have like a million ideas of where it could go, and I really hope they continue because I think they have something fantastic here. It's not often that you see a franchise break out in the same vein that like Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, name anything really that has like a million sequels, quote unquote, with it. But I think this could be one because of the way they've told the story, and I
yeah,
would
I mean,
love to see it.
it's so hard for anything to break out because
Mm-hmm.
really the genesis of this question was I was looking back over the last couple of episodes, and we talked a lot about South of Midnight,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of I sat there and I was like, well, why this game? Why not South of Midnight? Why did this break
That's
out?
fair.
Like, there's almost no rhyme or reason to it.
What was the rhyme or reason to Helldivers?
So I think Helldivers was just the right game at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
There was a real lull in live service games,
Mm-hmm. Same
and a
with
lot
Among
of
Us, right?
yeah, like a lot of really popular streamers latched on to
Mm-hmm.
Helldivers, and it's a cool concept. It's just log in and shoot a bunch of bugs.
I think
It's easy to
I
understand.
think this game appeals to multiple people, multiple types of people without giving any of itself up. It appeals to Souls fans because the combat is, frame perfect parrying, right?
Yeah.
However, if you play the game, if you play it for long enough, you start to realize that it's not animation parrying, it's sound parrying because the enemies will make every enemy in the game makes a very specific sound when you're supposed to parry. And after
Okay.
that, it becomes a rhythm game. So you have those three things already. The art's already
So
really
interesting.
good. People have
Yeah.
already talked about like how fantastic the story is. It looks good. It's very stylized, right?
Oh,
Like
it's beautiful.
the music is fantastic. Like it really does hit everything. And I was talking to a friend that works at Sony not too long ago when we were discussing it, and I told him, or he mentioned that he doesn't think most games deserve a 10. And I told him that I agree because I typically reserve games or reserve 10s for like a game that pushes the genre forward in some way, shape, or fashion. In like Halo, I would give a 10 because it pushed like the original Halo because it pushed like FPS games, for example. Um, this game, I don't know. Yeah, I think I
All
would
right.
give
So
this game a 10 because it does the same thing. Like it really revitalized the indie genre because I can guarantee you AAA studios are seeing this and they're taking note. B, kind of like what we touched on earlier, I think it really did help turn-based combat. It gave people an idea of like how to make turn-based combat interesting. And I think it did do a lot for the genre. I really do.
all right. So that's like a perfect segue into question two.
Sure.
So when I rate or rank games, I don't use like a numerical
Hmm.
scale. I find that a little restrictive because
I
I think
agree.
it's so genre based.
It is for
For me,
sure.
like it's hard to compare Tetris to Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
So when I do it, I think of games in a tier system
Okay.
relative to their genre. So like for me, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 3/6, Final
Hmm.
Fantasy 7, those are S tier.
Yep.
What if you apply that same logic to Clair Obscure? What is it? Is it
I
S tier? Is it A tier?
It's
Is this
definitely an
an
S
all
tier game.
timer? Okay.
Absolutely. So I've mentioned before about being in a Discord with my little brother. I
Hmm.
mentioned to them that this game was coming out, and they had never heard of it before because it was at the time it was such kind of like an underground thing. Like
Yeah.
I think the only people that had really heard of it were the people that had watched that Xbox showcase.
Hmm.
Um, and there were, people had talked about it and stuff, but I don't think your average person really knew what it was. But I mentioned it to them and they all played it and not a single one of them had a bad thing to say about it. Like every time I walked in or every time I joined the Discord, it was them like thanking me for telling them about it because they loved it. Um, I would absolutely give it an S tier. I think it deserves to sit next to some of those, genre defining games. And I agree. Like I don't typically give things a numerical score unless like that's what people are asking me for.
Yeah. I find that it's typically pretty reductive,
I think
you
so
know?
too. I don't like the idea of like, well, I give, sound this and I give gameplay
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, just tell people about it. Cause like your 8 is different from my 8. My 5 is different from your 5. You know what I mean?
And I
Like
mean,
it's
to me, sometimes gameplay can be so pure and so distilled.
mhm.
Like what I said with Tetris, that nothing else really matters. It wouldn't
Yeah.
even matter if the game had sound,
Yeah. I
so.
have toyed around with the idea of doing game reviews on,
Mhm.
my channel, my stream, just like doing that kind of thing. And there are two creators out there, Skill Up and ACG, that do game reviews to me the best. And ACG rates things on a his whole system is buy it, wait for a sale, wait for a deep sale, or avoid it. That's his thing. And it's
Yeah.
basically giving recommendations. And Skill Up does the same thing. Skill Up will either, say, hey, I recommend this game, or I recommend this game with the caveat of like you are okay with this kind of thing, or just don't play
Mhm.
it, like it's not worth your time kind of thing. And I think that really helps distill the whole thing rather than like a number system. Because what is a number to like most people? Like we all feel differently about how that scales. Like I know people that would play, a lot of games, and if they really enjoyed it, it's a 10 just for the simple fact that they enjoyed it. They don't have that same idea or scale behind it. And that's perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like the idea. And also from when we worked at like the gaming store, it was a lot easier for a customer to come up and ask me a thing and me tell them a little bit about the game and say, hey, if you like this and this, you'll probably enjoy this. And that I think is a lot easier for someone to get behind rather than me just say it's an 8.
Yeah, it's an 8.5,
Yeah, like
What does that mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of why I use a tier system.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to roll this into the next question. This is in the same vein. And it kind of ties back to when we worked at the game store.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2010, when we worked there, Red Dead, Mass Effect 2, AC Brotherhood, Fallout New Vegas, Limbo, StarCraft 2, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Halo Reach, the Minecraft beta.
Yep.
All this stuff releases. If Clair Obscur released then, would it be on that list?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would people still talk about it 15 years later?
I think people will talk about it 15 years later today. But yes,
Why?
I think so.
So why?
Why?
Yeah. Because any of those games I just talked about, you can point to almost a singular thing.
Mm-hmm.
Limbo's crazy art style, Mass Effect 2, the way it was kind of the linchpin of this generational story they were telling.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is it for Clair Obscur that's going to make you still think about it 15 years from now?
For me, it is the story. Because without getting into spoilers, I think the story is really good. I think the story hits differently for different people, especially if you've dealt with loss. Like especially if you've dealt with loss, which I know the both of us have.
Yeah, it destroyed me.
Yes.
In the best way.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah, it makes you think, and it's the game lead has come out and said that it's not like the story. Loss is not the purpose of it, but it's what a lot of people are going to get out of it. The music, again, like we've said a couple of times, I think the music is going to put that music designer, whoever was the head of it, on the map in a big way, and we'll probably get a lot more out of that. And then the combat, I think it really just hits like 3 of some of the most important things. The world, of course, is great. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It also,
the art style is very arresting.
yes, it also has a way of being very serious, but it's also not afraid to be funny. It's not like turbo grim dark. There is a lot of humor in the way they deliver lines in the story. Like one of the main characters has a foot fetish. Like that's their thing.
So it's funny that you say that, because in my notes about the game, I wrote serious but not pretentious.
Yeah. Like it is a serious game. Like some bad stuff happens, and people talk about some really bad things. At the same time, you literally have a guy that like at the start of a fight, he says, "Oh, what wonderful feet." Like it's crazy. It's wild.
But I mean, that's real life.
Yes, absolutely.
We all exist in this crazy miasma of loss and grief and humor and, just trying to get through the day. And I think that's one of the reasons why this game resonates with people.
I think so too. I think it hits people on a very personal level. I think everyone has a sort of vibe with it, whether they, admit to it or not, because loss is so prevalent in people's lives. Like
Yeah, it's
either
ubiquitous to the
either
human
you have
experience.
lost someone or you will lose someone, and you will probably think about, if you've played this game, a moment of it and how they dealt with it and
Mhm.
stuff. Like it's very eye opening. Um, and I do think that a lot of people can relate to a lot of what's going on in the game, and it handles it in a very adult manner, a very mature manner.
Yeah, but it doesn't treat it with kid gloves
No,
either. You know, it's
absolutely
not
not.
afraid of the subject matter.
So it's not Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah, God. I think about that game from time to time and just how much of a letdown it was, man. But and
So much potential, dude.
yeah.
Okay, so we might touch on that in the last question I ask you,
Okay,
but
okay.
we'll come back to that. So the next thing I want to ask you is, okay, this game was developed by 33 people. We already kind of talked about that. It's sold an estimate of around 2 million copies. That
Hmm.
doesn't include all the Game Pass downloads.
Hmm.
So, small team comes together, makes this really heartfelt, art driven game. What is the lesson that other development studios should learn from Clair Obscure?
Let people be passionate, I think.
Okay.
Um
So,
all
don't make devs make the Suicide Squad?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, think about it. Like, kind of back earlier when you asked like what makes this so successful kind of thing.
Hmm.
It is people made the game they want to make. And is it always a hit? No, absolutely not. Like sometimes things fail. But I don't think studios should be afraid to spend, a much smaller amount of money to try something new. Uh One of the big fears I'd always had about where gaming space was going was AAA games, and then you've kind of seen it. AAA games just playing it safe and just making the same thing over and over and over again, and then letting the indie dev scene innovate. And typically, what you see is like an indie game will come out that's fantastic and wonderful and cool, and everyone loves it. And then the AAA devs are like, okay, this works. Let's now spend millions of dollars to emulate that. And you still see it, and a lot of the times they still miss the mark because they still don't understand what actually made it really good.
Yeah,
I'm
they take the wrong lesson.
Yes, I'm still waiting for, and I'm sure it's in the works somewhere, someone emulating like Phasmophobia, like a AAA dev studio, like trying to make a ghost hunting game and just completely missing why people enjoy those games. And
It'll
I
100% happen. I
No,
mean,
for
it
sure.
will. Yeah.
I mean, right now that genre is a dime a dozen. I'm even playing one like right now on, well, not currently, but I'm playing one like on stream on Wednesday nights with some of, my friends and stream. Like we'll play like a ghost hunting game that's really fun. And I still think about like, man, 2, 3 years from now, we're gonna see a AAA studio like try to emulate this, and it's either gonna be really, really good or really awful. I don't think there's any in between.
Yeah, I think the biggest example you could see of this is like what's going on with Bungie right now, right? You
Oh
know,
yeah.
the original team got to cook and they made Destiny.
Yep.
And whatever you want to say about it, it worked.
Yep.
Sold a ton, and it became kind of a phenomenon.
Yep.
And now they're going to release Marathon, and it looks soulless and dead on arrival just because they're chasing a trend, you know?
Yep. It's that it can work, but it's not as fruitful as if you just let people be passionate and make what they want to make. I know people want certain things, and a lot of people, for example, like the GTA thing, it's like it's taken, GTA this long to come out. It's like, yeah, but they swapped to Red Dead because they have a cadence and that's what they want to work on. And I know we hate to wait, but like sometimes you have to if you want like devs to really make what they want to make. I know a lot of devs that like they're tired of making the same game over and over and over, but there's also devs like unfortunately the Rocksteady people where it's like, man, we just want to make Batman, but we're making this terrible crappy Suicide Squad game,
Well, it's kind of funny because like Suicide Squad started off as just like a futuristic tank combat game.
Yep.
They were trying to make something different, and then that
Hmm.
Suicide Squad movie come out, and the CEO of the games division at Warner Brothers told him to slap Suicide Squad on it and go.
That sounds so miserable. Like
Yeah. That's
that's
why there are those, terrible like tank chasing missions in that Suicide Squad game.
that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, they're the
I've only
remnant
seen
of that.
videos. I only played the game for about 10 minutes before I uninstalled it.
Yeah,
I
same.
think it was free on the Epic Store, so I downloaded it. And I think I got like right outside of the tutorial and it's like, nah, this is bad. I can't do it. Uh I that proves the point though. It's like, stop. Don't do this.
Yeah.
No one wants, like, treat treat consumers, or I say people, the heads of these studios treat consumers as if they are mindless, ignorant, you know, just entertainment eaters, and they treat them as if, like, sure, back in like the Super Nintendo days when you could do like a movie tie-in and it didn't cost anything to make, and it was like a 3-hour experience at best, like, most of them sucked, but it was like I got my thing out of it now.
Yeah.
There were some good ones, like all the most of the Batman games, like what was it, Batman Returns on SNES slapped. That shit is amazing. I would play it even now.
Really
Um,
good music, by
oh
the
my
way, in that game.
god! And honestly, anything Tim Burton touches is
Yeah,
my whole
yeah.
thing. But yeah, like, you will occasionally get those really good ones for sure. But when you are trend chasing for the sake of trend chasing, especially today, like, consumers, I think now, especially in this economy, are more frugal and conscious of their spending than they have been in a long time. Like
100%.
don't even get me started on the whole Borderlands thing that just happened, like, literally last week or the week before.
Yeah,
Um,
are you talking about the Randy Pitchford quote where he
yes,
said, "People will find a way
yes, and
if they really wanna play it?"
yes,
Yeah.
and in a way, I agree with him, because look at the Switch 2. Like, it, I
Yeah, but dude, that is some incredible hubris coming off
oh, I
the
know, no, I
the
agree. Like,
disastrous Borderlands 3,
I'm not
you
saying
know?
I agree with him. I'm just saying he's right to an extent, in that,
Yeah,
yeah, like, people in every single circle I was in, people were bitching about the Switch 2 price. Then the pre-orders happened. Those same
and they sell
people
out.
immediately pre-ordered it.
Yeah,
So, like, if gamers don't want companies to treat them like this, they have to, stop
you
buying the
gotta
shit.
you gotta vote with your wallet, right?
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I understand, like, honestly, it's really, you're just being sold FOMO. No one wants to miss out on this kind of stuff. Everyone wants to have a launch Switch. And
yeah.
I get it. As someone who almost always buys the new consoles, I think this is the first generation I haven't. I did not buy a PS5 Pro, because what's the fucking point? I'm not buying a Switch 2, because again, what's the point? I don't see a need to get these things because, well, I guess for one, I'm privileged enough to have a really good gaming PC, but also they're just, nothing that they have remotely appeals to me at all. So
No, I
I
mean, I'll buy a PlayStation 6,
yeah, I will too.
you know,
Absolutely.
because of the Sony first party lineup.
Yeah, and
But
that's the only reason why.
yeah, but I don't see the need to have a Switch right now.
I don't
Because
either.
when you look at the launch lineup, it's just the same stuff they've been giving us for the last 30 years.
And we talked about it in our Switch episode a little bit, but
Mm,
it really is, if you look at, like, the list of games that are launching for it, it's every game that has not been able to launch on the original Switch because it's so dated,
yeah,
plus like a handful of Nintendo first party titles, which, like, I
all
don't,
at exorbitant prices.
yeah. So I don't see the point. I really don't. And we'll talk about price stuff, I'm sure, when we get to the GTA 6 section later, but, like,
Yeah,
I all goes to show that, like, people can be mad at Randy, and I don't like him. I will be one of the first people to tell you I think he's an awful person.
yeah, he sucks.
But he also has a point where if he is saying that, other gaming studios and heads are thinking the same thing.
But the thing is, he's right, but it comes with a caveat.
Yeah.
Like if Borderlands 4 is amazing,
Yeah.
it won't matter and it will sell.
Yeah.
If it's Borderlands 3 again, it's the franchise is done.
I will say, like, this is the least amount I've ever cared about a Borderlands. Like, I haven't even watched the trailers because I'm just not. I'm kind of over it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the biggest Borderlands fan to begin with, but like, I will say the Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Like, I really enjoyed that one. I think that's the only Borderlands game I fully played through like multiple times with friends. I know Borderlands 1 I played through and I got to like the mission where you literally just have to go open the vault and I just could
Yeah.
not care less and I quit. Borderlands 2, I got to like 3 missions from the ending and I also could not care less and quit. I don't even think I made it halfway through Borderlands 3. So like
Borderlands is only as fun as the people you're playing
yeah,
with.
yeah, if you're playing solo, it's not a good game.
It
I don't think.
sucks. It's
It's
not
it's
fun.
not fun at all.
It's not tuned for that
It's not,
anyway.
and honestly the humor is just not for me. I just don't care about. Claptrap was cool when I played
Yeah,
Borderlands
it's
1,
fine.
but
Yeah.
like now I can't stand the character and I don't want to ever see him again.
All right, so I'm going to ask you the last question I
Okay.
have for Clear Obscure.
Okay.
All right. So tomorrow you get made the CEO of Sandfall Interactive,
Okay.
the devs that made this game.
Okay.
You have 4 choices.
Okay.
You can make a sequel, you can make a prequel, you can make a new IP, or you can pick any IP from the history of gaming and do your own spin. What do you want this team to do?
So one thing I talked to a friend about, um, that I think they are in a very unique position to do, that I don't think any other gaming company in the history of gaming has been in the position to do, is to make sequels in the vein of Final Fantasy where each one is their own game, but
Yep.
tell a Kingdom Hearts style meta story behind it.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to stay outside of spoilers as much as possible. But this game is essentially about painting, right? There is a whole other thing going on outside of the game that you only catch like hints and glimpses of. That is like this meta narrative of things happening outside of this universe, right?
Yeah, the hook is
Yes.
very interesting.
Yes. And so they could tell another story that is about like, you know, a different character, for example, in like
Yeah.
a different world doing their own thing. Because what is, I mean, Final Fantasy is kind of doing the same thing where like they basically treat every single game as its own universe and there's like a whole meta universe thing going on.
Yeah,
But
it's like there are always chocobos, but
yes, yeah,
they're not always on the same planet
yeah.
or whatever.
They could
Yeah.
have Esquiade in every game, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could have I forget their names, the Gestrels. They could have Gestrels in
Yeah.
every game. Like they could do that. At the same time, they could tell a cohesive outer narrative in the same way that like you played every single Assassin's Creed game to learn a little bit more about the Templars and the Assassins, right? And they could do the same thing where like you're playing it an RPG, a story, whatever that stands on its own, has its own narrative, but every time you play it, you learn a little bit more about the writers, the the artists, painters, musicians potentially. Like that could be a thing too, like because there's like this whole like meta war going on other in another place. They could even tell a story directly about that if they wanted to, right? But I think if they really wanted to keep people on the hook for a long time, then that would be the way to go. Like make another game, show glimpses of like what made the first game fantastic. Maybe evolve the fighting system in a way, keep it the same. Honestly, I would be happy if it was just the same because it's really good.
So you want an in-universe continuation of the story,
I would love it.
not
Absolutely.
necessarily a direct sequel,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
okay.
I would love to see from the perspective of like another character that survives at the end.
Hmm.
Um, I would like to see her perspective because she is very obviously like doing a whole thing. You probably know
Yeah,
who I'm talking about,
yeah, yeah.
but like you only ever see like glimpses of her, and she honestly she's kind of sucks. She's kind of like a hard ass. She's kind of like a terrible person to like a lot of people, but like in a
But you kind of
way,
understand why at the
yes,
end,
in a
right?
way
So
that she's
yeah,
like, if I don't do this, my entire family's dead. You know, like I
yeah.
have to be this way to people, and so she's kind of heartless. And but like I thought she was a very interesting character. I would love to see what she's been doing this whole time. If you
All
wanted
right,
to do a prequel, for example, you know, so
all right.
um,
So if I could caveat this question,
sure.
if if Sandfall gets the opportunity to do what Obsidian did with Fallout,
Mhm.
what IP would you want them to do?
With Fallout.
Well, no, just like if they got a chance to work in an existing IP,
Oh, okay, okay.
like if you could give them any IP and say make a game in that universe,
Oh my god,
what IP would you give them? Because for me, it's Dragon Age.
that would be a good one. That would be
Because
so
like if
good.
because they could handle the weight of the original Dragon Age, not the slop that it's become.
Yeah,
But the original narrative, like it would either be that or Chrono Trigger.
my
But
mind immediately went to Chrono Trigger because it's got the
yeah,
same idea. And honestly, I just want to see Chrono Trigger again, not Chrono Cross. I know a lot of people love that game. It's not. I was very unhappy with it,
yeah,
but
no, Chrono Trigger is the one that matters.
I miss Trigger so much that
Oh,
like
same.
if they could do that and have like the whole multiple ending thing and like make that today, that would be. I would love them for that.
Dude, I think they could feast on that IP.
I'd buy 30 copies. I'd buy 33 copies, one for each team member.
All right, well that's all the questions I've got about Clear
All
Obscur.
right, cool. Well, thank you for asking them. Unrelated to, so I know I'm gonna ask you about Oblivion Remaster, but I know you said you watched like a playthrough of it, or you listened to like a story synopsis, right?
Yep.
What did you think about it overall?
So, I mean, I think everything about it is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The music, the art style, the world they've built.
Mm-hmm.
The story is so deep and nuanced
Mm-hmm.
and handled in a really respectful way relative to the subject matter. Because in like lesser hands, this could have been really hokey.
Oh, it could have been terrible.
Yeah. But they handled it with kid gloves, and I mean I think they really just hit it out of the park.
Absolutely.
This is not my kind of game, but I'm gonna play it.
I think you
Like
should.
I
I
I,
think you would
I
like it
bought it
more.
because I really want to support
Yeah.
this dev team.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I'm gonna play it and see if I can get through it. It's not my cup of tea gameplay wise, but
When you do, let me know if you have any
okay.
questions, any thoughts, whatever. I'm happy to be there to like just geek out with you about it or like offer you pointers or help you out with like the way a lot of that works. I
Yeah,
know a
I
lot of
will
people that,
probably
like I said, don't play those kind of games, and they are like they picked it up and they're like, I'm enjoying it. In the same way that like Elden Ring introduced more people to Souls games because it was a little more palatable and it was a little easier for people to pick up. I think this is kind of the same way where people are obviously you have like Souls fans that picked it up and they love it because of the try hard stuff, right?
hmm
But like there are, and make no mistake, there are enemies in that game that are incredibly difficult. Like the final super boss is ridiculous, but you can also break the game and do like a billion damage with one character. So like you can, if it gets really hard, you can skip 99% of it when it comes to that kind of thing. So it's fun. It's really enjoyable. All right, so I do have a few questions about Oblivion for you. Um
All right, I'm so ready.
so I guess the thing I will start off with is, Does it feel the same as you remember?
So before this game came out, when I would close my eyes and think about Oblivion,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I saw in my mind.
Okay.
I know the game didn't look that good,
Of course. Yeah.
but I romanticized it, right? Because it's my favorite game ever.
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much.
Okay.
And I think they did such an outstanding job capturing the essence of what it was.
How how do you feel? Well, I guess this is maybe a two-parter.
Okay.
How do you feel Bethesda's game design has evolved over the years? Because this really is a unique portal into like 2000 what 6ish 2005
Yep.
to see like how they were making games then versus how they make them now with all their recent releases. And
So, okay. No, go
do
ahead. Sorry.
you think they've evolved for the better?
So, I don't think they've evolved at all.
Yeah.
I think it is shocking how much playing Oblivion feels like the minute to minute playing like Starfield.
Okay.
Because everywhere you walk, there are a few random NPCs running around. You can talk to some of them. To get anywhere, you have to go through, 10 loading screens.
Mm-hmm.
You can pick up random crap for no reason.
Yeah.
Like all these Bethesda through lines are there. And there are a few like nuggets of stuff that's changed from a technological perspective in
Yeah.
Starfield. But the minute to minute gameplay, I was shocked. That was one of the first things I thought was, wow, they have really not changed much.
For me, I mean, I played it for like, well, I initially played it for 3 hours and quit because I hit that first Oblivion gate and was done. And then I
Fair.
picked it back up while I was waiting for something else. I think it was waiting for Clair Obscur to come out, and I played it long enough to finish like the Mage quest line and start the Shimmering
Hmm.
Isles, and then I quit and I just uninstalled it and haven't went back. But the first thing that stood out to me was that their dungeon design is so much better now than it was before. I feel like the
So,
design in Oblivion, like there were dead ends everywhere. There's like places to nowhere, especially the Oblivion gates. And one of the main reasons I hate it is because you have like 3 or 4 doors that go to the same place. And maybe that
mhm.
is by design being the plane of Oblivion. But like I remember a friend of mine picked it up. He's a massive, like he plays Elder Scrolls Online. He plays Skyrim. Like he can recite certain like quotes, like he just
Mhm.
knows them really well. And he had never played Oblivion. And he did the same thing as me, where he got to the Oblivion Gate and he said, "This is the worst game dungeon design he's ever seen, and he just can't play it again."
I mean, it's awful. It's the worst thing about the game.
Yeah,
100%.
it's a product of its time, but I feel like Bethesda
It is.
has gotten better with game, like just general
So
design and over like dungeon spaces.
so like for dungeons, like what I think you're talking about, the reason I think they feel so much better now is because you don't have to backtrack. In all the modern Bethesda games and Skyrim and
Hmm.
Starfield, at the end of the dungeon there's a door outside.
That'll leave you out. Yeah,
Yeah, in Oblivion there's not that.
yeah.
So in the remaster they added this clairvoyance spell that's not in the original game. So when you finish a dungeon, you can just cast that spell and it shows you the way out.
Okay.
In the original game, you were lost as hell the entire time.
Yeah, I remember that. I
You
mean,
were.
it's weird. Like I remember playing Oblivion and being okay with it, but hating the Oblivion gates, and I knew I would
Yeah.
now. But like I don't know if like my gaming taste has changed, and that's probably part of it, or I'm just so spoiled by modern quality of life changes, like being able to just leave a dungeon once you're done, right? That like I just couldn't go back and do it. you know?
So, I mean, I think the same thing that we're experiencing with this is what we would have experienced 10 or 15 years ago if we went back and played Final Fantasy 1
Oh yeah.
or Zelda 2.
Yeah.
The space has just evolved so much past what the design was in 2005.
Mhm.
I don't think you can I don't really think you can compare this game to something that comes out now, but it's also fair to say that it's not a fun experience to play relative to things that have come out since and learned from it.
That's fair.
If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. I get that.
But
Uh,
I really do. I think that's one of the key reasons why Starfield failed is because it feels more like Oblivion than it does The Witcher 3.
you're not wrong. Starfield, I tried to go back for the DLC. I couldn't. Like I
I
made
did
it
too. I
like,
just couldn't do it.
yeah, I think I played it for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and I was like, man, was Starfield really this bad? Because I actually had a good time with Starfield. I could see the complaints that people had with it, but I didn't think it was necessarily bad. It just wasn't amazing, you know. And
No,
we've,
but when you stand it up against its contemporaries, like Baldur's Gate 3 or The
yeah,
Witcher 3 or it lags behind. I mean, even Avowed, as troubled as it is better in a minute to minute sense than Starfield is.
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like I've mentioned before, I think the best thing about Starfield was the relationship system and everything that
Yeah.
you can do there. And I don't think everything else about it was just kind of okay. Like you could tell it was not finished in the way like you get your powers and stuff, and like some of the powers I know specifically were made worse if you leveled them up just because of how they operated, like doing percentage damage and stuff. Um, I want to say there was one power that would, as you were leveling up, it did a percentage amount of damage against an enemy. But when you got to max level, it did flat damage, like,
Yeah, as the
100,
enemies
200.
scale with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because the enemies scale with you, they have more health. So
That's
suddenly
right.
the percentage damage actually does more damage than the flat damage when you level it up. So it's just not, it wasn't very well thought through, and you could see the seams, you know what I mean, like it just
Yeah, no, I think not very well thought through is a great summation of what Starfield is. Because
absolutely.
there are a lot of really cool Lego pieces in the set,
Hmm.
but they don't go together and make something great.
No, you're right, yeah.
I mean, it's just
So that kind of leads me into my next question, and this is like a series, so
okay.
if you want me to roll these all into one question, that's fine, or leave them as different ones. But for Oblivion, what is your, because typically when people do remakes, they change things, they will leave things in, they'll take things out, they will try to modernize it, for example. um for you, what is the best feature that they've left in, what's the worst, and what has surprised you the most?
Okay, so the best thing that they left in is the totality of the way it feels.
Hmm.
They were not scared or embarrassed of what Oblivion was, and they embraced it.
Yeah,
When you play it moment to moment, it feels just like the original Oblivion.
that is very true, for sure.
I know they've changed, they made some minor changes to some of the systems,
Hmm.
but it's not that different. Like
Okay.
the combat has a little bit more weight, because of the way they changed some of the animations and
Yeah, and they
stuff.
added like a dodge and stuff too, right?
Yeah, and all that's cool and quaint, but it doesn't make it a new game.
Okay.
Like it still feels like Oblivion to me.
All right, now what is the worst feature that you're surprised they left in?
So it's the dungeon design.
Okay.
I really thought that they would go in and they would tailor the dungeons specifically, especially the Oblivion gates.
Yeah.
But because of the negative connotation that they have, rightfully so. But again, they chose to leave the soul of it the same, which
Mhm.
I can also appreciate because this game it's a time capsule, really,
It is.
of
Yeah.
what game design was.
Yeah.
So
So, and out of all of that, what has surprised you the most with it?
I am constantly surprised when I walk around the world how beautiful it is and how piss poor it runs in the open world.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of dynamic AI stuff going on in the background because of the way the game is coded,
Yeah.
but in all reality, there are only like 125 real NPCs in Oblivion. There's not that much processing going on relative to new games.
Hmm.
And I think it's embarrassing the way the game performs on a modern PC.
How much
You
do you think of that is the game, and how much is it just Unreal being a
Yeah,
unstable
I mean,
engine?
I think it's really a marriage made in hell, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Unreal, for all of its pluses,
Oh, it
it,
looks
it's
beautiful, but it runs like shit
but
right now.
it runs like shit, and it's incredibly taxing on the CPU
Yep.
side, which is the same thing you can say for the Gamebryo engine, I think is what it's called,
Yeah.
or the Creation engine. Yeah, it's Creation
Yeah. 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 It's the
is what it
creation
is.
engine.
Um, it's incredibly taxing because of the way they process the AI that's running for each individual character in your proximity. And when you put those things together, it's chewing up like modern PCs. Like I played it on mine. I've got a 4070 Ti, which is, not top of the line
Hmm.
anymore, but I can run Baldur's Gate 3 at 150 frames a second,
Yep.
and it looks amazing. And with Oblivion, it's a roller coaster, dude. Like sometimes it dips into the 30s.
For the record, I have a 5080 and it did the
Yeah.
same for me. Like, it crashed constantly.
Yeah, it crashes all the time. So I was getting super frustrated. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to play this on console and see if it runs any better.
Was it better?
It's 1,000 times
Yeah.
better on
I
PlayStation 5.
I
I
think
platinumed the game and it didn't crash a single
I think
time.
a big part of it, and this is something that like Nvidia is dealing with right now, like their drivers are just really bad. Like I don't know what's going on. Like Marvel, for example, when I had my 3080, I could run it not at max, but like medium-ish graphics,
Yeah.
high without, ray tracing or lumen or whatever they call it now. And I never had any issues, and I kept hearing all these people complaining about crashing and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like my 3080 is doing fine. I moved to the 5080. I cannot turn on lumen. I can run the game at high. If I go anything above high, it is crashing constantly.
Yeah,
And
I read that a lot of people are having problems with frame gen
frame
on
gen,
PC too. Yeah.
lumen, like there's just a bunch of stuff that
Yeah.
Nvidia has. It feels like, I mean, I'm not like an expert on this, but it feels like Nvidia advertised with these cards and like this technology, and it just is not ready yet. And they're just like kind of pushing stuff out while they're, the train is on the tracks while it's being built, for example. And
Yeah.
it does not work. Like I literally work at a corporate office that is doing the same thing right now with like a lot of their offerings, and it is painful to try to keep up with. So I can only imagine what it's like, on that side where you're literally building a technology and trying to like optimize it, and you have all these different moving parts and pieces, and it just, from the
Yeah. I mean,
consumer side, it sucks because it's like you're trying to play Oblivion, or you're trying to play even Clear Obscure crashed on me all the time because of the same thing, and
yeah.
it's all driver related, and it's almost
And
always
Unreal.
Unreal 5.
Yeah, Unreal is incredibly unstable.
It's weird. Like it tends to go it tends to ebb and flow, right? Like I think Unreal 3 was also very unstable, but like I think no one really had that many problems with Unreal 4, right? Like
Yeah, don't remember this at all with Unreal 4.
But I do remember Unreal 3 crashing a good bit too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Like who I don't know enough about that side of the industry to like really accurately tell who's dropping the ball there. But like
Mhm.
I I think someone needs to like take a step back and really fix it because no, that's goes back to us talking about like gaming prices going up and stuff. Like if you're gonna keep dropping these games and they're gonna be unstable, and then you're gonna try to charge me 80, $100 for them, I feel like I'm getting screwed.
Man, if I had paid $100 for the experience that I got from Oblivion on
I'd have
PC,
been pissed.
I, I'd be so pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that like not everyone deals with it, right? Like it is certain people, but it's still not fun. Like even if it's one person, that should be taken seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we've seen a lot of studios coming out with, all these different remakes and stuff, and that's kind of been like the go-to. It's been the way that a lot of studios make money. I think it is a very easy way to teach new devs. You hire a bunch of new people, you get them to do a remake, and then you make a little bit of money to fund other projects. Plus, your people get a little bit of experience, right?
Yep.
Um, do you think more studios should start remaking their old stuff? And do you think remakes are kind of the way forward to deal with the current crisis that is, gaming budgeting?
So if they can remake them from a historical preservation standpoint, I think it's amazing.
Okay.
Because some games you can't get anymore.
Yeah.
So, I think this is a really good answer to that question. I'm not I'm not 100% sure that I trust the games industry to do these games and price them appropriately. Because Oblivion, I think it was $50,
Yeah.
which I think is very fair
I
for
think
what they did.
yeah, they put a lot of work into it. Like I didn't play through the whole thing, but I could see that it was a labor of love, right? Like
Yeah,
they did a good job.
the team at Virtuos really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Technical stuff aside, I think all that'll get worked out.
And
But
and I think it goes back to like the clear obscure thing where we're talking about why is that one so successful? I don't think C-level executives at these game companies understand that people can tell when devs love something they've worked on. Like
yeah,
it has a soul to it. Like you can feel it when you're playing it. And
it
I
absolutely does.
and as much as I don't like it was not my thing, I absolutely could feel it while I was playing it. Like the people handled it with such care.
So one caveat to my answer that I will give you is I think remakes and remasters are detrimental to the gaming industry as a whole from the perspective of new games coming out. Because there is literally nothing they could have released the week of the Oblivion remaster that I would have bought instead of that.
That's fair.
Because nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
It is, yeah.
It is. And when I play Oblivion, it's not just the game. It takes me back to a time in my life that was simpler and better and something that I can never have again. And it doesn't matter what new game comes out. It can't replicate that.
That's true, yeah, absolutely.
And like when I asked you the question about the games that come out from 2010, when they eventually remake Red Dead, Mass Effect, New Vegas, all these games, I'm gonna buy them and I'm gonna play them. Because I love them. They're so consequential to the history of gaming. But when you stack stuff like that up against anything that's struggling for attention now, like we talked about South of Midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way a game like that is going to get a fair shake when you're releasing the literal greatest games of all time
Yeah.
that look, like $1 million.
Yeah, you're gonna have a mixture of the people that buy it for nostalgia, and you're gonna have a mixture of like the people that weren't alive to play it, that
Yeah.
want to play it to see what everything's about.
Yeah, because I mean, can you imagine when they eventually remaster the Mass Effect trilogy
Yeah,
and release it as one total package that you
yeah,
can play through from A to B? I
yeah.
mean, because they're going to. And they've
I
already said that Virtuos is going to roll off of Oblivion straight into Fallout 3.
yeah, okay. That was gonna
So,
be one of my other questions. Is well, I guess it's somewhat related. Like, what if any game from Bethesda's universe? What's the next thing you want them to work on? Is it Fallout 3,
no, it's New Vegas.
New Vegas?
Yeah, because I think New Vegas has the best story
Yeah,
and the best quest. And I think if you give it a fresh coat of paint, I think all bets are off as to how much that game's going to sell.
as someone who has never played New Vegas and I have tried, that would get me to probably play it all the way through.
It's the best Fallout game, I
I
think.
I tried playing New Vegas when it came out and it crashed like 30 times on my
Yeah,
Xbox before I could even, get to New Vegas, and I just returned it.
yeah,
And then I tried downloading all the mods for it, and it took me like a day and a half to like get all of, like the get it to work on Windows 11, get it, like I went through like this giant guide of like the quintessential you have to download these things to make this game playable.
yeah.
And then I played it for like an hour and I was like, this just isn't worth it to me right now. And I just ended up uninstalling it and getting rid of everything.
So I mean, that's the one that I want the most. The
Hmm.
the one that I'm scared of the most is Skyrim. Because they're gonna do it. I mean, you
uh,
laugh, but someone at Microsoft has had this thought, and they're like, "Fuck it, just do it."
well,
Skyrim on Unreal, make it look beautiful.
from my
You know?
understanding, the reason why they've remade Skyrim so many times was employee up training, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's one of the famous stories out of one of the Bethesda documentaries they see
yeah,
that they the toaster version of Skyrim to train new people or
yeah.
whatever.
Which I mean is, like I said, it's a good way
It's
to do it,
smart.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
At the same time, it's like y'all could put these people on other things and train them
Yeah,
just the same. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's I don't need Skyrim again. Not
Who
now.
does?
Maybe in 25 years. But the thing is, like, these companies can't help themselves. I mean, hell, Sony already remastered Horizon Zero Dawn
Hmm.
and The Last of Us.
So
Like, we don't need that
no,
now,
I agree 100%.
The
Speaking
the
of
Zero
Skyrim,
Dawn remaster looks worse than the original Zero Dawn.
it does. Man, that's why I'm like I am cool with remakes within reason. I don't
Yeah,
If a game came out 2 to 5 years ago, for fuck's sake, don't remake it. Let's just
yeah.
let us
No, I mean,
enjoy it and move on.
yeah, for me, it's 10 years is even pushing it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like 15, 20 is kind of
Yeah.
what they need to start.
Absolutely.
You know,
Like, to me, like the Final Fantasy VII remakes, I know people didn't really care for the first one. That second one, though, amazing. And I think out of the entire Final Fantasy franchise, it is the one that deserves a remake. I don't know. I know people are not happy with the way they did it, where they're like, let's split it into 3 different games.
I
But
think it's so interesting though.
I think they have to. I think if they
Yeah,
really want to tell the story the way it needs to be told, and because it's not even really a remake though, it's a I
it's a
joking
reimagining.
I jokingly call it a
Yeah,
requel, where
yeah.
like
That's really what it is.
yeah, it is the
Yeah.
same game. It's got stories to it, but like it's also a sequel. Like, and when people like will talk to me on the street and be like, yeah, I'm waiting for the whole thing to come out because I don't want to just play a part of a game I've already played. I'm like, well, that's just it. It's not the game you've played.
Yeah.
It has like some of the same story beats, but it is way more interesting. Like the ending to the initial game, I hated. And then I thought about it a little bit longer. And then I thought, like, the thing that Sephiroth says to Cloud at the very end, where he says 7 seconds till the end, what
Hmm.
will you do with it, is one of the most like
Yeah,
fantastical things. This is the best way they could have ended it, because that just
yeah,
makes you want to know, where are you taking this? What are we doing with this?
and that's like the complete opposite of what you get in the Oblivion remaster
Yeah, because it's
because
just one for one, right?
yeah, 100% it is. I mean, there were quests that I remembered how to beat them that you could that would normally take 10 or 15 minutes, but I could just sidestep things and do it in 2 minutes.
I know when you mentioned that they love it and they weren't afraid of it.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that like a lot of the mistakes, like the dialogue mistakes and stuff that they left in, that they just owned, and they're like, yeah, this was part of the game's charm. This is part of the game's identity, rather than
Yeah,
bugs to be
it
fixed.
it 100% is.
And I thought that was the best thing, because if you remake it, like, those kind of things are endearing. Like, people love that. It spawns so many memes, so many like fantastic things. Like the weird the weird Argonian woman that's like super into necrophilia or whatever, like you
Yeah,
meet.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah, like I don't she's really cool. I don't mean that in a weird way, but like, it's funny that that exists. That's like a great quest line. But then
Yeah,
there's like
I
the
didn't think
outtake
they would
stuff
put
too
that in
that is
there. They
fantastic. It's just so
Yeah.
good.
And to me, like the coolest thing about it is if someone has never played Oblivion, the experience is so equivalent to what I got in 2005 that we can sit down and talk about it. Like somebody who's played the remaster could talk to somebody who played the
Hmm.
original and they could have an actual discussion about the game.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know?
conversely, like with my little brother, I tried to get him to start playing through Final Fantasy VII Remake, and he made it about 5 or 6 hours into the first one before he got kind of bored, and he just didn't like it. And he was
Yeah.
like, "Can I just skip to the second one?" And I was like, "Man, you can, but you're gonna have absolutely no idea what's happening, and even playing the original will not prepare you for it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they did change so much." And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because for fans, when we replay that, at least to me, I think that's great. If I want a one for one remake of Final Fantasy VII, I'll just play the original. To me, it still holds up, right?
I mean it absolutely does.
But like, this is just, it's such a weird take between both. Like, how do you I couldn't really tell you which is best. One obviously is great for nostalgia, but the other, like, just breathes life into a dormant thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when they both exist on their own as really separate products, which I think the Final Fantasy ones do,
It is for sure.
there's a reason to play both. I mean, honestly, if somebody asked me which one they should play, the Oblivion original or the remaster,
Hmm.
it really all just comes down to the graphics.
I think so too. Yeah.
Like, if you want it to look like a modern game, then play the remaster. If
Yep.
you don't care about that,
Then
and
play
you
the other
can
one for
deal
cheaper.
with
Yeah.
some of the jank that did get cleaned up in the remaster,
Yeah.
then just play the original. Like, I mean, there's not a huge enough functional difference that it matters.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for the Final Fantasy one, for example, I have to pull out a fucking Excel doc and like go
Yeah,
through a PowerPoint and be like, okay, you need to play this one, and then you can get to the remakes.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, so
all right. Well, I think that wraps that up for us.
that all the questions you have about
That
it?
was all the questions. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I could have went 2 more hours.
Oh, I know. I probably could have too, but
Yeah.
for the sake of time, I think we can move on to the next thing, which I think is finally
So you want to
the
talk about the elephant in the room,
elephant. Yeah, yeah.
the 10 million pound elephant, right?
Hmm.
Grand
Hmm.
Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, let's go.
So the tagline that I put in our little show notes was Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to change everything.
Yep.
So across all platforms, the second trailer has received roughly 500 million views. That is 1/16 the population of the entire planet.
Which is crazy to think about.
It's insane.
And I have some thoughts on that, but you can continue.
So I think that kind of leads me into the next point is what I wanted to ask you before we even talk about the trailer, the contents.
Okay.
Like, has Grand Theft Auto 6 transcended video games into like this other thing?
I
You
think
know, the way like Marvel movies kind of became more than just a movie,
I think it is
at one
a
time.
cultural phenomenon in the sense that
Yeah.
like if Florida Man, for example, everyone knows who Florida Man is, right? Or
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Florida Man is. Florida
Yeah. What it
Man,
represents.
yeah, Florida Man is essentially like almost a cryptid at this point. Like they're a
Yeah.
modern cryptid. Uh it's any other game that would put someone that was very obviously like, your quintessential Florida Man in the game, no one would really bat an eyelash or give a shit. They would laugh at it and be like, "Oh, that's funny. I've seen him on TikTok or whatever," and then just kind of move on.
Yeah.
In GTA 6 though, these people are saying Rockstar give me money to the point to where like
Yeah, the
those
guy that's in jail sued them, the
yes.
Rockstar Joker guy.
Yes. So him
Yeah,
and there was another guy that they showed too that like I mean, he took a picture of himself and looks just like him. He's got dreads, he's got the same
yeah.
he's got like grills in and everything, and they ended up changing the way the character looks to avoid it because like I don't think even Rockstar knew how big it was going to get. I really don't. I think this is a situation where Rockstar knew they were making a game. They knew like, oh, it's GTA 6, people are going to buy it. I don't think them or any of us were prepared for it to be as big and as popular as it is.
So, is that a good thing? Because that's one of the other questions I put in the show notes. Like, is this level of hype and production, is it good for video games as a whole, or does
No.
this set an unrealistic expectation
I
of what games should be?
I think it sets that unrealistic expectation. I think you're going to see executives see this and get pissed off that they're not reaching it and do everything in their power to try to make it happen. I
Yeah,
think
but I mean, this game has a $2 billion budget.
yeah, which is also a very bad thing.
Yeah,
Like
no one else can do this.
I mean, no, absolutely not. No one else can do it, but they're going to try. Well, I say they're going to try. There's going to be hopefully financial people sitting there and saying, "No, we can't do this. We're not going to make money." But they're going to find ways to do it. Like Blizzard King, for example, Candy Crush, like they use really all their mobile stuff to fund their game development, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And Microsoft famously doesn't really make much of a profit on their game division, but they have everything else that really funds it for them to where like it's just kind of like its own thing, right?
Yeah, basically Microsoft Office funds
Yes.
the gaming division.
I don't
Yeah.
think most gaming studios have what we will call a battery to help fund the rest of their operations.
No.
And it's a double-edged sword in that I'm glad they're not going all in on these things, but also it means they all have to play it safe, which is like the weird state in gaming we're in. We're at this point where like, and I think, again, back to Clair Obscur, that's why that game was so like out of left field. And a lot of these other like double A or even like B, tier games have become so popular. Like look at Space Marine 2, Helldivers, Clair Obscur, like all those games that just kind of popped off because they made them fun. They weren't really worried. I mean, obviously you want to make a profit, but like they had a vision. They were designed very well. One game dev I've spoken to has said that like as far as they're aware, most of the budget for gaming goes through like marketing and management. Like that's like the big kickers because they're so mismanaged from top down that when you have a small agile team that knows what they want, you don't have to worry about what we call scope creep, where like the thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and before you know it, like you're just way out of control and you can't really
Yeah.
handle all the things coming in. Um, when you're a smaller team and you have a focused project, you can put something out like that, and it does feel like a cohesive product, as opposed to like all these other things where you have, like for example, Clair Obscur, 33 devs, but like at Ubisoft, for example, that's like a small team that works on like weather systems, for example.
Yeah,
And
that's just people in a conference room at Ubisoft.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and so like
Yeah.
when you have think about mechanics. The more pieces you have in a mechanical thing, the more chances you have for something to break, right? I don't
Absolutely.
think it is any different in game design where the more people you have working on a singular thing, the more chances you have for it to break down somewhere, and then the more expensive it's going to get.
All right, so on the flip side of the design, like just from a consumer perspective, like I think Grand Theft Auto 6 is one of the worst things that's going to happen for consumer confidence in video games.
Yeah,
Cuz people have waited forever for this game, and I have no doubt that it's going to live up to the hype
for sure.
cuz Rockstar does that. It's going to
Yeah,
be amazing. But it's going to set the bar so high that I don't see anything else being able to touch it. And I wonder if this is just going to make people disappointed in everything else.
it could be. I mean, that could be the case. It could be one of those things where like you get an Ocarina of Time situation where like very few things outside of that for that year or the past few years were like that good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I do worry that it will ruin gaming for a lot of people where everyone's just chasing that GTA 6 dragon.
Eh,
And I really I really worry that like Rockstar is gonna screw themselves over because everyone's like, oh, if you do this thing, the next one has to be better. But what if the game's not even out yet? That's how wild it is that we're talking about this, and we're already expecting it to be massive and amazing. It's like this one's gonna be the best, but can they do better? We don't even know that. What if it comes out and it does suck? What's that gonna do?
I can't live in that world.
You know what I mean, though? Like, what if it comes out and it just isn't good?
Now, I know what you mean, but you can go back through the history of Rockstar, and every game they released is technically better and more sound than the game that come before. Like that, they are amazing at what they do.
For sure.
Like, I
But
mean, you can go back through the whole catalog, and it's just banger after banger.
yeah,
And I
they
mean, you look
they
at the
are
last game they
definitely
made, Red Dead 2 is widely regarded as one of the greatest narratives in video games of all time.
the story's really good. I am
Yeah.
on the fence that Red Dead 2 as a whole was not good, but we can have that discussion at some point if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's fun to play.
Yeah. See, I wonder if the same thing's going to happen here, though. Granted, Red Dead 2 and GTA are completely different genres. And because of the nature of GTA, I think it makes it easier, quote unquote, to make that game more fun just because of what it is. Whereas in Red Dead, I have to walk 30 miles to get to a horse.
Yeah,
An
there's way
exaggeration,
more
but
options.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
And I mean,
think the
if you go back and
novel,
play Grand Theft Auto 5, it's still pretty fun
yeah,
right
no,
now.
for sure. Yeah.
It holds up.
Yeah, absolutely it does. I can still hop on in private lobby with like friends. Yeah, that's not even touching on like the multiplayer for GTA 6. I think that's going to carry it.
Well, I mean, that's where the money's going to come
Yeah.
from.
See, this is what a lot of people are talking about the price and stuff and like what's it going to cost. I think Rockstar is in a position, and I really wish they would. I think Rockstar is in a position to do the absolute funniest thing in the world because everyone is expecting this game to sell for 120 bucks. But you've already proven they had like 500 million people watch the trailer, so they're gonna make money no matter what they sell it at. I would roll if they just sold it for 60 bucks because they know that once they get people online, they're making $1 million a day.
So like you're talking about they set up just the ultimate troll.
Yes,
You're
that's
just
what
like,
the
hey, we don't need to sell it, at $100.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and capitalism speaking, they're gonna sell it for $100 because they know
Yes.
people will buy it. It's the same reason Nintendo's doing it for Mario Kart because they're like, well, where else are you gonna get your Mario Kart? Hint, everyone, it's Sonic Racing. It's way better, I promise. But like, I know that's probably a hot take, but that's exactly how I feel about Mario Kart.
I mean,
Uh,
you're not wrong.
oh, really? You believe it?
Wow, of course. Yeah, of course.
Hell yeah! I see.
It's
This
not
is
even
why we're
close,
friends.
dude.
This is why we're friends.
mechanically, that game is so much better than Mario Kart.
It
Mario
is.
Kart is such bullshit.
I hate it so much. I
Yeah,
can't
if we're gonna
stand it.
go on a diatribe, we could do that.
I was telling a friend about it the other day. I was like, look, I prefer playing a game where I am racing against other people and they are also racing against other people. I don't want to race people against me. And if Mario Kart 8 or whichever Mario Kart World, whatever it's called, is going to have like 20, 30 racers, whatever they said, I just know it's going to suck having every single one of them throw a blue shell at me.
I
I
was
don't
gonna say I
like
don't want
that.
30 blue shells. No,
It's
that's
awful. That just the
I hate
idea
it.
of that just sounds miserable. Anyway, no, I really think that like if Rockstar's good at trolling, they know like that's kind of their vibe. That's what they do, right?
Mhm.
They are old school Devolver Digital. They really are. And to your point, they're the only people that have been consistent. And I genuinely think that if they wanted to do the funny thing, it would release at $80, people or $60, 80 for like the full version, whatever. People would love them for it. They would get so much positive news. I mean, would people still buy it at $100 and $120? Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. But like, would it really hurt them? I don't think so. I mean,
No, absolutely not.
gaming is more popular now than it's ever been. Like it,
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
I don't
sell
think it's growing any right now. It was really COVID that like built it up, and that's why you see a lot of layoffs now. But
yeah.
like, I think they could easily say, get the $60 for the base version, $80 for whatever, 100 for collectors, the usual spiel, and they would still make a ton of money because like
Well, they
most
would
of their money.
garner so much goodwill.
Exactly. And I really hope that's what they do. I might be wrong. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong just because I'm very pessimistic about the way like our lord capitalism kind of
Mhm.
drives our society. I think, if you have a dead ringer on your hand and it's going to be like the best game of all time or whatever, obviously you want to sell it for that. But I think they are just in that very unique position to do something really cool and really fun and really interesting and really funny
So
because you see.
I was 100% convinced this game was going to be $99.
Yeah.
You know that they would not break the seal on 100.
Yeah.
But since you started talking about how subversive they are,
Yeah.
I I could actually see them doing what you're saying
It'd be funny,
and
right?
releasing it even if they were like $69
Yeah.
and just tell the rest of the industry basically to bow down.
Yeah. They could
If
do
you
it and they
guys
would still make
want to
profit.
be dick, charge $100 for a game, go ahead and do it, but we don't have to.
Yeah. It's such ballsy to charge that much for a
It,
game when the games don't even
yeah,
release like fully, running.
they
Like,
run like crap.
we were talking about like the Unreal thing, right? Like,
Yeah, they're not feature complete.
and
Like,
and again, like I know I have mentioned before that like, games have always been expensive and blah blah blah, but like also I think, and I know I've mentioned like gaming is an expensive hobby and it always has been. And I'm not like advocating for games to be expensive for the sake of being expensive. Like that's a thing. You also have to look at the idea of like wages haven't increased at all in the past like forever. So like yeah, uh games are expensive and they haven't moved, but neither have consumers gotten more money either. If
yeah,
anything,
that
like our wages are worse
stack.
because everything else is going expensive as well. So like no
Well,
one
that
really
was the thing I
has.
was going to tell you is like games have always been expensive, but now everything else
Yes.
is exponentially more expensive. So,
And gaming, like we said, is more popular now than it's ever been. So you have more people playing it. The only thing that's different, really, is games budgets are just growing astronomically high
mhm.
because of bad management or people like moving forward, like trying to like push an envelope forward that no one really wants. Like maybe save a few $100 million and don't make that game 80 hours. Maybe stop at 40. How about we do that? That would be cool.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
yeah. I mean, famously, Warner Brothers the budget for Suicide Squad was $400 million,
That's ridiculous.
is what it ballooned to. But okay. So, what does GTA 6 have to sell to be a success? Like,
How many copies?
Yeah, GTA
Oh my
5
god.
has sold 215 million copies,
I
which is third all time.
Yeah, I think because of I mean, when did GTA 5 release? What year was it?
2013?
Yeah, it was a while ago. So I
Yep.
think in that time, look at culture. Look at how much streaming culture has sold or has grown. Um, Look at how much gaming culture has grown. I think, like I said, it's more popular now than it's ever been. Um, I I easily think they're going to hit that 500 million mark.
You think it's going to sell 500 million copies?
I'd be surprised if it doesn't.
I mean, that's
It
astronomical.
is.
That's like Tetris level.
Yeah, I think it's going to
That will
sell a ton. Are we talking about on release or like over its lifetime?
No, I was talking about lifetime. You know, like for a Rockstar executive, what are they going to be happy with in 10 years?
Yeah.
You know, like because if it sells what Red Dead 2 sold, which is like 65 million, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a huge disappointment,
I
which is
mm,
insane to say out loud,
I
but
know. That's one of the things we were talking about where like being in an industry where selling a million of anything is a failure shows that the
yeah.
industry has problems.
But GTA 6 has to sell 100 million, period,
You
to
think
even
so?
come close to recouping its budget.
That's well, see, you're also not thinking about online.
Yeah, I'm not factoring in the you know the boatload of cash they're going to get
Yeah.
from online for
I
sure. But
genuinely think it's going to do it for sure.
yeah,
I
I do too. I think lifetime it'll sell more than GTA 5.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um I was looking into like analyst predictions and stuff.
Hmm.
I think analysts predict that it's going to sell 40 millions in the first year and reach 100 million by 2030.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I mean
that's
that is flat insane.
yeah. I mean,
I
I
mean just 40 million would put it on like the top 10 games of all time.
yeah. No, I think it's going to do more though. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's such a cultural phenomenon that like everyone's going to go. Like you had a million people like not necessarily a million, but you had tons of people going to watch Avengers in game because they just wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like people that had
Yeah.
never watched a movie like a Marvel movie ever. Like people that didn't even know what the fuck was going on, but they went to watch Endgame because everyone else was doing it. Why don't I? Like you'll
And
probably have a lot of people that like don't play games that just want to be part of it or like say that they're cool or just be
yeah.
part of like that zeitgeist, and they will buy a PS6 or a PS5, probably a PS6 because it's going to get re-released for PS6.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They're gonna buy it just to like have GTA. I genuinely think that, and a lot of people that don't have consoles now, it's a console seller. And when was the last time we've had a console seller?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've had one this
This
generation.
generation, no. Like there are people that like me and you probably that would buy like a console for God of War, right? But I don't think anyone that doesn't already have a PlayStation would buy a PlayStation for God of War.
No, I don't think so either.
Like I think your Nintendo your people that like only play Nintendo games will buy a console for God of War. But your people that only play Nintendo games would buy a console if GTA 6 was only on that console. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no, it absolutely does. And we're not even talking about the depth of like the online that's going to give like the legs that the
Yeah.
online is going to give this game. Like there are going to be a lot of people that this is the only game they buy for 3
Yeah.
years.
Very famously, Rockstar bought the company that or the technology that people use to do the GTA online roleplay, and it
Yeah,
is being built into GTA 6.
so smart.
Yeah.
So smart.
So like it's gonna be a thing. Like it
Now,
is like
Now, one thing I would say, I don't know how much time you spent in GTA Online, but it is an absolute miserable
Oh, it
experience.
sucks. It's miserable. The
It
only
is,
time I've ever
if you're
played it,
playing private, it's okay.
yeah, I've only ever played it privately. It is
Yeah.
meant to be a grind fest. They want you to be on there and they want you to it is mobile gaming turned into a console game because
Yeah,
like everything is a grind,
just
everything takes forever to fucking do. If you want like money, you have to pay you have to either play for a long period of time like it's a second job or you spend money.
and everybody's just griefing the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just terrible. Like, I watched a YouTube video. A guy did 100% of everything you could do on GTA Online,
Oh my god.
and
How
it,
long
it
did
took
that
him
take?
1,000 hours.
I believe it. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous. See, no,
yeah,
I never did that. I did the
yeah.
heist with friends. I remember when they released like the legally distinct Batmobile. I bought that,
Hmm.
and that was like the extent of me playing the game. No, I bought the DeLorean they had on there too that like flew.
Okay. Yeah,
Like that
yeah.
was it. Like I was like, yeah, I've got to have these things because that stuff is cool, and I'm gonna have to buy them all again when GTA 6 comes out.
So let's talk about the trailer.
Okay.
I don't know how much like you love Grand Theft Auto. Like, I've played every mainline GTA game since 3. And I've beat them all, and I really like them.
Yeah,
It's really my jam. They're fun.
I've played all of them.
So the trailer really got me hyped. Like, it looks amazing. And I don't know if you've seen like the videos breaking it down. Like, there's this one scene where the main guy is walking out of the store with a 6-pack of beer,
Hmm.
and you can see the liquid sloshing in the beer bottles.
Yeah,
And it's just a level of unnecessary detail.
that's where that that
You know that
budget went.
Yeah, that Rockstar is known for.
Yeah.
That one single frame has me so hyped for this game.
What
Like,
has me worried? One of the things that has me worried, and a very popular YouTuber by the name of Nakey Jakey did like a whole video on it.
yeah,
Um, was about how they spent so much time in Red Dead 2 making it look and feel like lifelike that they forgot to build like a good game around it.
yeah, they
And I,
forgot to make it fun.
yeah, and I don't, and I mean, they have like the cop system, for example, in Red Dead, where like you can do something in a town, but then like suddenly the cops like several towns over also know that you did something bad, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's just outdated systems, and like all this time, all this money seems to be spent on like just the sim ish nature of the game, and that's fine
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, it is a video game. But I think there's a balance in there somewhere where like you can make it realistic, but like you can't forget to like make the other parts work really well too, because then it breaks down really fast for me at least, and it did for him too. And I'll send you that video because I think it's a really interesting watch. Um, I'm
No, I,
worried.
I totally agree that
I'm
that's a
worried.
big concern.
Yeah, I'm worried this might be the same way where they spent so much because when we talked about gaming budgets going too big and gamers not really being prepared for the idea of like let's cut everything back by half at least
Hmm.
and like making games cost a little cheaper, but like gamers having to be ready to like face the fact of like, well, if we're going to do that, we can't make something on this scale every time.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I don't think we as a populace, and I speak about gamers in general, I don't think gamers are ready for that. I really don't. And I don't know how you solve it. I don't think there is a solution, quite frankly. I don't think you can do it. And I
No,
am
I think there
worried.
are just going to be these outlier games like
Sure.
GTA,
And that's
that
perfectly
are just,
fine.
they are the pinnacle of what games can be if you
Hmm.
have an unlimited budget.
Yeah. But kind of like we mentioned earlier, like, well, everyone's going to want to try to emulate that. I would like
Yeah,
to think that people realize they can't. And like that's, if you want to work at Rockstar or if you want to do this game, you have to work at Rockstar. Otherwise, you need to be happy doing what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the only other studio that is even remotely comparable is maybe Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
But they don't do things on scale like Rockstar does.
Yeah.
So,
How much here's the $5 million question. How much extra money do you think the devs are going to get out of it?
I mean, I would say as little as humanly possible.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, Rockstar is notoriously a horrible company to work for.
Yeah. And is that not awful? Like, do you not
It
feel
is.
bad for
Yeah.
these people?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, let's say, you know, the game really does sell like 500 million copies, right? What, like, do you think anyone outside of the executives are going to get any of that?
No,
Which is crappy, right? Like,
not unless it's contractually mandated.
yeah, even then, in many cases, like companies have found ways to get away from that.
Yeah,
Like a lot of people didn't receive their bonuses for a lot of the games they said they were going to get, and there was no way to actually sue them for it.
and I mean, look, if you work at Rockstar, I think you have to acknowledge that that it sucks.
Yeah.
Like the company sucks. So if you stay there, that's on you. Like I don't think you can get mad.
Yeah. No, that makes
Because I mean,
sense.
you look at Walmart, every day they're making hundreds of millions of dollars and the cashiers aren't getting a big piece of that pie.
One of I've been talking to, Sony guy, I call him.
Mhm.
One of the things we were talking the other night, we were sitting at a bar talking to like the bartender there, and he told her one of the fastest ways to make you realize where you stand in life is that your work is making someone else's dream come true.
Yeah, I mean that's true. It's
Yeah.
sad, but it's
It's
true.
sad, right? It's like you're not
Mhm.
working for, I mean, obviously you're working for a living, right? But like you're really just working to make this other guy's job possible or like dream possible, but you're not doing
Yeah,
really anything for yourself.
no, your overtime is being used to get that guy more time on his yacht.
Yeah. I mean, it's a depressing
That's
thought,
just it.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's capitalism in a nutshell,
Yeah,
right?
it kind of sucks. And I feel that way about, a lot of these dev stories. So it's like these people are, to coin Jason Schreier's whole thing, literally pouring blood, sweat, and pixels into their work, and they get like the minimum amount of repayment for it.
I think
And
that's why it's so important for people that can break away to
yeah,
do it and go make Clear obscure.
yeah. I think
Show other
as
people
this
that it's possible.
happens, we're probably going to see a lot more of those passion projects happen
I
where,
hope so.
like, I really hope that if that ends up being the narrative where, oh, GTA 6 sold, 100 million copies, the devs made minimum wage, like the highest paid dev was like 90K a year or some shit. I hope if that's the case, 3 to 4 years from now, we see ex Rockstar dev made their own GTA like and put all the systems in it they wanted to do, and it's like its own thing, and it's really fun and cool and amazing.
And now they're rich.
Yeah,
That's what I want to see. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because I think like none of this is possible without those people, and I think we as consumers tend to glorify the wrong people. I've always told people when people are like, BioWare sucks, Bethesda sucks now, like any of these big name companies, people are like, oh, these companies aren't good anymore. And I always tell them, it's not that the companies were ever good, it's that the people that worked there were amazing and they all left.
Yeah.
And so you've always hyped up a brand, but you've never looked to see like the people behind it, really making everything work.
And that's why Dragon Age Veilguard feels like Dragon Age cosplay.
It does because
It's a
they're
bunch of
not.
people
Yeah.
pretending to be BioWare.
Yeah, and it's nothing against them either, I don't
No,
think.
it's not.
Like
But
I genuinely believe those devs did their best. I really do. I think it's mismanagement, it's leadership that's just bad. You've seen a lot of these other leadership people that were leading these companies went somewhere else and their companies failed.
yeah,
And but like you hear these big names and it's like, oh, but you were the head of this. Why why can you not do this again? And the only answer that I could come up with is either you're out of ideas or it wasn't really you making all this work to begin with.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you want to look at like Bethesda, right? I mean, Todd Howard would go in the video game Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He just would for what he's accomplished.
Yeah.
But you could also reasonably say he hasn't made a good game since 2012.
Yeah.
When Skyrim came out. And some people would argue that Skyrim is so bare bones and derivative that it's not even good. Like, I don't think you can say that. I think that's, a step too far. But
I think, like, to go back to like the Oblivion thing, I think Skyrim and Oblivion are good games for their own reasons.
I think they're good games for their time.
Yeah, I think Skyrim has a better world than Oblivion. I really do. I think Skyrim is a little more interesting to walk around and explore and like experience. But I think the quest design and stuff in Oblivion is a million times better.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, even as someone who, again, could not play through Oblivion because it was really difficult for me to get through, right? Like, the Oblivion gates, I hate. I don't think there's anything in Skyrim I just absolutely hate doing. But I couldn't tell you any quests in Skyrim that I really remember. But I do know some of the quests in Oblivion.
Yeah, that's a really eloquent way to put it. Because that's exactly the way I feel. There's nothing offensive in Skyrim.
No.
There's just nothing standout either.
No. And I know when it first came out, we were all like, drinking the hype juice, and we all loved it. It was fantastic. I remember when it came out, were we still working at Game Store then?
No, we weren't.
Yeah, so I remember when it came out, me and one of our coworkers were like standing in line, super hyped, super excited. I went home with my girlfriend at the time, and she watched me play it for hours and hours, and like, it was great, fantastic, wonderful. And then we were all excited to talk to each other about it. Now it's just kind of old hat, and I don't think we have remotely the same idea about it when we talk to people about it.
No, I mean, I don't think you can replicate that time and place feel.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it was really revolutionary and cool for when it come out.
Yeah.
Now things have just passed it by. And I mean, that's fine. You could say the same thing for Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Yeah. Yeah,
they
absolutely.
were legit amazing when they come out. Now they're kind of hard to play.
They are, for sure.
They're products of their time. That's just the nature of video games.
That's the interesting thing to me, though. But like, we have that, but I could still play Diablo 2 now, for example, and have a great time. You could still play Mario World 2. You could still play Chrono Trigger. I could still play Final Fantasy 7.
There are some games that are timeless, right?
Yeah.
And to me, like, that's when, like when we were talking about the like tier rankings of games. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, if something's going to be S tier, I've got to really think it's timeless.
That makes sense. I mean, maybe those really are the best games of all time.
Yeah, I think so.
Literally, right?
Because when we did our, like our initial like proto episode and we talked about the best games of all time, I really hammered games like Super Mario World that I think are going to be amazing representations of video games 10 years from now or 100 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be the same thing. You can't say that about Oblivion
no, for sure.
You just can't.
Yeah, those are the games that I genuinely, most of them are the games that I think are genuinely perfect. I cannot find a single fault, for example, in Super Mario World. And I can't, and that wasn't even on my list, but I understand why it's on yours, right? Like, I get it. I also can't find a single fault in Chrono Trigger. I think it is just genuinely perfect. And another thing that really helps it that people take for granted is that pixel graphics really just stand the test of time.
Yeah, they hold up. Right?
They never look bad. I remember when Final Fantasy did Final Fantasy 8 and 9 and tried to go like hyper realism. They look like absolute shit right now. Like, it is hard to go back and look at 8 and 9. But 7, for whatever reason, looks better to me because it's very stylized. And I don't and then like 6 and 3 and like all of the SNES games, look good too because of the pixel graphics.
Yeah, I think a lot of the SNES games are going to stand the test of time because you're going to be able to look at them
Yeah,
forever.
I could play the Batman game right now and have a great time.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking about like Rockstar's back catalog. Like a couple of months ago, I went back and played Bully, which is really fun and really interesting in context, but it is really hard to look at.
Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't look great now.
What original PlayStation game that isn't like Hyper Stylite is though?
Yeah, I don't think any of them are, right?
Yeah, it was an era that looked great at the time because all we had was 2D and like the N64, but like doesn't catch on very well. So like for example, the Capcom Fighting Collection came out, like part 2, and it's got some classics. It's got like Capcom versus SNK. No, it's Capcom versus SNK 2.
Capcom, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They have Power Stone in it. They have Project Justice, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. They have a lot of those in there, and I can play them. I'm like, man, I remember Project Justice looking way better than this, But I'm still having fun with it because it is a great game. It is high school anime the game.
Are going to be great
forever,
yeah, right. Yeah.
But like Capcom versus SNK 2, for example, looks great because it uses sprites and like the original, like, that 2D pixel art.
And yeah, Street Fighter 2 looks amazing now, and it always will.
Yeah.
So, and that's like GTA 6 is not always going to look great.
No, I
don't think. I mean, maybe graphics have reached their peak. I don't think so.
I think part of what is causing, and I could be wrong because I'm not a dev, but I know dev stuff tangentially by being like another type of dev. But I think right now we have hit I'm not going to say like the best games we'll ever get, but graphically for pixels and stuff, I think we are kind of reaching the end of that. And the next thing that you're going to see is lighting evolving, because you can look at a game with like baked in lighting and bad lighting, and then a game that has like ray tracing, for example, and they do look night and day in many cases.
Yeah.
But we also have to hope NVIDIA gets their shit together and lets me play a game with a driver that won't cause it to crash every 5 seconds or whenever I open a menu. That's the next hurdle, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's technical performance, right?
Yeah. So what else we got?
All right, so the last thing I want to ask you about with Grand Theft Auto 6 is, do you actually believe this game's coming out on PlayStation 5?
Absolutely not.
Because I do not. I mean, I think there will be a bare bones bullshit version.
I
think this is a PS6 game.
It's PS5, PS6. I think if they put this on the PS4 and people actually buy it on those consoles,
I don't think there's any way it could run on a PS4. I'm not even convinced. I know they said they recorded it on a PS5. I don't know if I believe them.
I could see it. I mean, because it's literally coming out.
You think it'll be a PS5 game?
Yeah, it's literally coming out next year. It has to be.
You don't think they're going to stealth drop new consoles on us?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you how I know that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough.
That's not happening. All I will say is I told a friend that I heard a rumor about when the new consoles are coming out, and he looked at me and smiled and said, "That's a good rumor."
Okay.
So, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a stealth drop. I don't think they're remotely ready. Otherwise, there would have been way more leaks than we already have. Okay. Now, they could stealth push the system back. Or not the system, the game. They could stealth push the game back. Yeah. And I think that is more likely than seeing a console drop.
Okay.
But I do think
another delay.
Yeah, if there's another one. I'm not saying they're going to. I do think, however, if they I do think if they put it on the PS4, you're going to have a Cyberpunk situation all over again, unless they have invented some fantastic tech. And they're like, basically, if you play the game, you're just getting rid of like literally all lighting in
Yeah.
the game.
Dude, I just think a base PS4 would explode trying to run that.
Yeah. I remember Cyberpunk did the same thing for PS3s.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, remember, it's been a while, but I do remember seeing videos of like it running on a PS3 and it running on like a PS4 and it running on a PS5, and it was night and day. Like it looked like two completely different games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think if it happens, that's probably what you'll see. Like it is toaster level stuff for that engine. Like why would you even buy it on that? Because it's not gonna run.
It's not going to be representative of the vision.
But consumers don't know any different. I think your average gaming consumer just has no idea. Think of the dumbest person that walked through our door when we were at the game studio, and I think that is probably your average.
Well, dude, every day people would come in asking if the newest 360 game was out on PS2.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
So,
and I can't tell you how many times I had a mom come in and ask to get Sonic on the Nintendo.
Yeah.
Or Mario on the Sega or whatever, like can I get Mario on a PS2? That was a constant question. It's like, no, you can't. But if you buy this, you can. And the looks,
you'll never be able to.
Yeah, and the looks we got, and it's like, look, man, I don't make the rules. I'm just giving you the information you need to make your kids happy.
Yeah, this is just the way it is.
Yep. And
all right, so I think we can kind of leave GTA 6. I feel like we've had a good conversation about it. I'm super Omega hyped. So
I am too. I think mostly just to experience it. I want to see what they do with it. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to see what a $2 billion video game is.
I'm scared. If it just ends up being GTA 5, I think I would be disappointed. I'll be honest. It needs to do something wild. It needs to do something we haven't seen. If they're going to do that much money.
Well, I guess only time will tell, my friend.
I will see.
So let's switch gears to stuff that's coming out next month. So there's really not much, minus the Switch 2, which I cannot believe the release is this close.
Yeah.
But game-wise, the only thing I really saw that was interesting was Death Stranding 2, which I was also shocked by.
There's like some random indie stuff coming out. I did not play Death Stranding 1 because it's just not my thing. But Death Stranding 2 at least has me interested, and it is, thankfully coming out at a time where there's really not much else coming out, so it's like I may as well. I've considered picking up Death Stranding 1 and playing through it to see if I can get it, but I don't know if I really want to,
It is the most boring, like obtuse thing I've ever played.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to play it. I've heard 2 is a little bit more actiony.
Yeah.
To the point that like a lot of the previews and stuff I've seen on it, people have said it feels like a Metal Gear game without actually being a Metal Gear game. And I'm like, that could be cool. But like, I can't tell you the last Metal Gear I played that I really enjoyed either. Maybe 4.
I mean, I think I would go back to the one that came out on PlayStation 1.
Yeah, no, Solid was just top tier. I don't think any of their games have ever beaten Solid. And I don't know if that's me, what we were talking about earlier. I don't know if that's me being nostalgic for it or if it just being the better game.
I don't know. Like, I remember enjoying Snake Eater.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people love that. Are you going to play the remake?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So outside of Death Stranding,
I have no interest in Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just out of boredom. Like, I might play it. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other game coming out that I'm interested in is FBC Firebreak.
Okay.
And
what is
so did you ever play Control?
Yeah.
So it's made by Remedy. It is a multiplayer game set in the Control universe. The FBC stands for Federal Bureau of Control. And it is Deep Rock Galactic meets Left 4 Dead. And you play as a random member of the FBC. Like, you're just people. You're not like a super star or whatever, and you're in the oldest house and you're just trying to have a normal work day, but like as you can expect, different things happen. There's a lot of anomalies. There's some cryptids because that's kind of like that universe. There's SCPs. You have to deal with that kind of thing. Like you have the hist running at you. You have to fight.
Yeah.
So it's very obviously inspired by Left 4 Dead. And I think Remedy is just wacky and zany enough to make that kind of thing fun.
Sounds like something that could really pop off for a streamer.
Mm-hmm.
I could see people like really getting invested in watching somebody play that.
Yeah. They have, some of the stuff I've seen, like it is funny. It is very Remedyified in that, like, one of the bosses you can encounter is a guy made out of Post-it notes. I don't know the story. I don't know why. And the character's name is Sticky Ricky. And I don't know. I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. So I
I wasn't gonna play it until you brought up Sticky Ricky, and now,
right?
now I'm sold.
You get like special moves you can do, like ultimate attacks, for example, where like one of them is a garden gnome that runs around and like beats the crap out of people because it's control. Another one is like I think it's like a water cooler that like shoots that water out of itself or something like that, and it heals everybody around you.
Look like Control?
It's built on that engine. Yeah.
Built in the same engine.
Yeah, except it's a first person game. So you're playing in first person. It's not a third person thing.
God, this sounds like just such a mind F,
Right. And that's kind of what I want. That's kind of what I want to do. When it comes out, I will be streaming it. I've already told the people that I play with that we're going to be playing it, and they're all down. So
I'm looking forward to watching
if you want to check it out and see, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to have you and everyone else there.
So the other big thing is the Switch 2, which, I have no interest in.
No, I'm not interested.
I know you've already said you don't either. So I'm curious how well it's going to sell.
I think it's going to sell well. I think despite everyone complaining about it, it's going to do as well as expected, just for the simple fact that like gaming, I'm not even going to say Nintendo fans, gamers have no self-control, myself included.
Yeah.
To the point that like if there was literally nothing coming out in June, I would probably try to buy one just to have something to do, but instead I'm going to go outside and walk around and use it to like, clean up some of my backlog.
So I was looking at the release schedule when I was prepping our document, and I was kind of thinking, I could play through Tears of the Kingdom.
You could, but should you?
I don't want to spend $600 to play Tears of the Kingdom at 60 frames a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's kind of standing in the way.
That's fair. But, yeah, like I said, what I will probably end up doing is opening up Steam and looking through the list and being like, what can I buy to make the time pass, because I don't know what other option I really have,
Yeah, that's me, because I rushed through Oblivion and finished it completely, and I'm done with it. I don't know that I'll ever play it again, honestly. So
that's fair. I don't think I could blame you.
I think I've had enough.
It's one of those games where like if you get it, you play it, you enjoy it, but like once you've done everything in it, I know there's different builds and stuff, right? Like, what do you do though? It's the same with me and Clear Obscure.
I've done it all twice. At this point, so,
absolutely sure for you.
Yeah, I may just try to beat Clear Obscure. So that
would be a good one
on the docket.
Yeah,
but honest to God, the more we talked about Chrono Trigger, the more I just started dying inside to play it again.
You should. Yeah, it's never a bad one. I haven't in the past few years, but I did get on a cadence where I played through it once a year.
Yeah, I don't think I've played it in probably a decade. So.
Oh, it's worth revisiting.
Yeah, it's probably time.
I highly recommend, and I don't even know if it's the same version on Steam. The DS version to me is like the best one that they ever released.
That's what I've always heard for sure.
Yeah, it well, for one, it looks good on the DS because smaller
Mhm.
screen and stuff.
Yeah.
But they also had new quests, like unique
Oh,
quests specifically for it that like
that's
gave
interesting.
you a little bit more backstory and stuff. It was cool. It was
Okay.
really well done.
So, what about outside of gaming? Got anything big planned
uh, I am
in all your
not
free time?
no, not for June. I am currently planning a trip to New York with some friends for July. They want to go for like July 4th weekend and hang out.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
think that'll be fun. When it comes to non-gaming stuff, like I doesn't the Fantastic Four come out next month?
Yeah, I think we're looking at Fantastic Four and the new Superman.
I don't know if I'll watch Superman. I really want to see Fantastic Four though, like really badly.
Yeah, I'm down for both for sure.
No, Fantastic Four
Fa-
is in July.
oh, okay. Well,
Well, either way, that's
yeah.
gonna be like that's the only thing I'm really looking forward to. Outside of that, I'm not doing a whole lot of other stuff. I've been told I should watch Andor and that it's really good, but
I keep hearing that too.
yeah, I've also been told that it starts off really really slow, and I'm like, man, I don't know if my attention span can handle that.
So there's a new season of Rick and Morty starting tonight, actually. So I think that'll probably be my TV show of
Yeah, is
choice.
that your go-to?
Yeah,
Well,
I love it.
my
Yeah.
thing, I just don't have TV, man. Like I'm always like I could be working on something, I could be doing something. I mean, I have televisions out, because I have consoles, but like I would
Well,
rather
yeah,
have a
like I have
YouTube
no,
video on.
like I have no actual way of watching Rick and Morty. Like I'll
Mhm.
have to buy it piecemeal,
Oh,
probably on like Apple TV or whatever if I want to
that's
watch it.
rough.
Yeah. But I'm like you, I don't have TV. So
What's even the point these days, really? Because most of the stuff you can get online. And it's
yeah, I mean,
if it's like Rick and Morty, how much are the episodes a piece? Like what, 3,
I-
$4?
yeah, I think they're like $3 or $4.
Yeah,
It's totally
you're
fine.
saving so much money just
Yeah.
getting that specifically. Like it feels weird 'cause it's like, well, I could have everything, but like, are you gonna watch everything else and then forget to cancel your subscription and just pay it for forever?
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch really anything.
Yeah.
The last TV show I watched all the way through was Invincible.
Oh
So,
yeah. The last time I watched stuff was the last time you and I talked about it, which was I think Invincible.
yeah.
I watch Taskmaster sometimes. One of my friends got me into that, and it can be funny.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never seen that.
It's have you never? It's
No.
pretty funny. It is. They've got like a million seasons out, but it's basically like this British comedy show where they get like comedians to do like these wild tasks and stuff, and they get points based on what they did, and it can be something as simple as like go put these items over here, but there's like a bunch of obstacles in the way, or it could be like I think the most one of the most recent episodes, they had something in their hand and they couldn't use their hands to get the lid off of something, and they had to find like creative ways to do that. But I think it was like milk, and so
Okay.
ninety
Yeah.
percent of them just ended up spilling it all over the place because whatever. So it's just stuff like that. It's funny though.
Yeah, other than that, the only thing I've got going on, some guys I've been playing D&D with for a long time since high school.
Yeah,
We've got a new campaign kicking up next weekend, so
that sounds
that's
fantastic.
it's always fun.
Yeah, I haven't done. I was doing D&D with a group of friends like a year and some change ago, but I just got so busy. And Sunday was the only free day I had, like, because we're doing this now too. But like, I just told them, it's like, look, I've got to free my Sundays up. I can't not have a day to catch up on things.
Yeah, it is so hard for 4 adult humans to find time to come
We
together.
had, we had, I want to say 6 or 7 people in that session, plus 2
Yeah.
DMs.
Yeah, I don't know
And
how in the world you manage that.
well, sometimes we didn't. Like we
Yeah.
did a session I think it was either once a month I think it was twice a month, once every other week, and then it went to once a month. And then I just got really annoyed because I was like, I'm spending like all this time waiting to do a thing, and then sometimes we would end up canceling because people got busy, and it's not their
Yeah,
fault.
yeah.
It just life happens. But then 2 months, 3 months would pass, and we finally get to the session,
And you
and
don't even remember what the hell's going
yeah,
on.
we'll do the
You know?
session recap at the top of the session, and I'd be like, I have no idea what we just did. Like, I don't know what's going on. And so I was like, it's just not works. It doesn't work for me. I should just
Yeah.
go.
No, I feel you.
So no, I'm really
Yeah, I
excited
mean
for
that's
that. What's your favorite class? Were you playing?
Bard.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
never done a
love
bard. I've been interested though.
so I love to do things in games that I can't do in real life, and I can't sing, can't dance, can't play music, not very charismatic. So, you know, being a bard is kind of like the ultimate get to be somebody else.
Very fair. I
Yeah.
understand that.
So, but that's really all I got this month.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd. It's been a absolute blast. I really enjoyed this conversation. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. I really like the format, the way we
Yeah,
broke down the two games. I thought that
I
was
think
cool.
so too. I
So,
think that's really good. We'll have to do that again in the future.
yeah, it worked well this month for sure.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening. If you got this far, we really appreciate it. We will be back. I believe the next day we have scheduled is the 15th of next month. We'll be able to make that. I don't think anything will get in the way, but we'll keep you updated. And yeah, thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll chat at you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.